All right, so hello everybody on an extraordinarily glorious morning in late April, just a day or so after what was it? Earth Day, I think they called it a couple of days ago. And I'm celebrating Earth Day a little bit also because I was there at the very first Earth Day in the spring of 1970 in Madison, Wisconsin. And as you probably know, it was Senator Gaylord Nelson from Wisconsin who inaugurated the first one. And so here we are. This is just in case you think you may have arrived at the wrong place, this is the embodied carbon, the CLS embodied carbon NGO and government roundtable on decarbonization. And the objectives of this meeting are to share news, strategic plans, resources, and tools related to embodied carbon, to report planning and future dates for conferences, webinars, and meetings, to inspire and facilitate ongoing communications and conversation among key leaders related to embodied carbon, and finally, to encourage convergence on shared embodied carbon terminology, data standards, benchmarks, and targets for embodied carbon reduction. And this morning we have a record number of people who registered for the meeting, and also a record number of people representing organizations who have signed up to provide reports on the work that their organization is doing. A total of 32 altogether. So we've got a 90-minute meeting scheduled. We're going to do our very best to be disciplined in moving forward through the agenda. And so I'd like to ask everybody, if you're called upon to provide a report, please try to remember that 2 to 3 minute limit on the length of a report, and we'll hope that we can get through all of our presenters within 90 minutes. And to start with, we've got two people from the Carbon Leadership Forum. First of all, I'm looking for is Michelle Lambert here. And I'm not saying Michelle, but we do have Brad Benke from the CLF. And so I'll start out with Brad. And there are so many little black boxes or pictures on my screen here that it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to identify who is the person who's speaking next. So I'll call a name. I'm going to post the list of presenters in the chat window, and I'll call a name. And if you have not yet been given, if you have slides to present and you have not yet been given, been made a co-host of the meeting so you can share your slides, just let me know right away, and I'll go ahead and make you a co-host and we'll move ahead. So to start with, Brad, I think your report is going to be something about a whole set of stuff that just got produced and published in the last couple of days by the Carbon Leadership Forum, work that you and a lot of other people have been developing over the last couple of years. And Scott, you've got your hand up. Do you want to ask a question or say something?
I was just clapping in appreciation for
Yeah,
the data
okay.
set.
It wasn't a hand up, it was an applause. All right. And as we get into the meeting, also, I'd like to make a personal request. Anybody who is willing to turn on your camera and let us see your smiling face, please do that. It makes a really big difference in a meeting like this that you see actual human beings instead of little black boxes. And I love that. All right, so Brad, take us away.
Thanks, Andrew. It is a very happy day for me. I've taken a big, deep breath after working on the same project for about 3 years now, almost 3 years, and I'm so excited to share it with everybody. We're all very excited. There's multiple reports, research papers, tons and tons of things that all kind of culminated and is coming out at the same time. So I'm just going to give you a really quick preview. There's so much to cover. I encourage you all to check out our website and explore everything to the full extent of your interest. So, oops, I'm not sharing yet. I've been working on myself and many others at the CLF have been working on what we call the CLF Embodied Carbon Benchmark Study. And this involved collecting a lot of data from people designing and building buildings and performing whole building LCAs on them. That took almost a year to partner with 30 design companies around North America to get a whole bunch of high resolution and harmonized whole building LCA models together so that we could analyze them and compare them and produce this entire set of resources for you. So everything, almost everything, it's not quite everything, everything that we did in 2 minutes. The major outputs from this project, uh, about a year ago, we published the California Carbon Report, which was a whole life carbon assessment looking at 30 real buildings in California and comparing operational and embodied carbon. After that, we finalized and published our actual whole data set of these LCA models and results that we collected. That is now open access. You can read the whole methodology. You can download the spreadsheets and explore this data. The same data that we're using to create all these reports is all available in that open access data set, which we're really excited about. And then the newest of sort of announcements is we just finished our embodied carbon benchmark report, which provides embodied carbon budgets and analysis and trends into the data set. We also have a preprint research paper on exploratory data analysis, really looking at what, statistically speaking, are the biggest driving factors for higher and lower carbon projects, and how could those be applied to design reductions and policies. And then lastly, another preprint research paper that takes a much deeper dive into the material level impacts of buildings within our data set and can explores material use intensity and embodied carbon intensity, primarily focusing on A1 to A3, as well as other benchmarks and contributions within it. So there's so much in these. I can't talk about all of them. They're all really, really great. I'm going to focus just for a second on what's included in this embodied carbon benchmark report. As we know, a lot of our CLF community has probably been waiting for this one for a long time. Oh, sorry, two more things. We also have two additional dashboards to help visualize some of this data that's in this data set. One called our Whole Building LCA Benchmark Study Dashboard. You can select certain types of project features, so either a use type or a structural system or climate zone and things like that, and compare multiple different impact intensities. So embodied carbon being one of, I think, 6 that we have available in the data set. You can tweak a few toggles to get different types of results that you want and also download the full table of contents. We plan to expand on this and improve this throughout the future to offer more flexibility and filtering of data. And the other is a part of that material research paper that focuses on material use is a visualizer of that data using the methods from that paper to really look deeply at what types of materials are contributing most, both in terms of their mass, their material use intensity, but also their embodied carbon intensity across, again, a bunch of different project features that you can filter by. So you could explore how much concrete does a concrete structural system use compared to how much steel does a steel structural system use, et cetera, and lots more. So the benchmark report, just a quick preview. So in this report, we provide actual benchmarks and what we call embodied carbon budgets, which are suggested values for embodied carbon building scale policies and programs that could be adopted within them to say buildings should not exceed these values under these various different scopes and building use types. And we provide a lot of guidance because we're providing different types of values along a performance scale. We suggest how could those be applied under different types of policies and programs, and what are the considerations that policymakers or even just owners or designers should think about when they're trying to set a target or a limit for the thing that they're working on. So we hope this is a really great resource for all sorts of policies and programs that are trying to set caps or targets for embodied carbon impacts of buildings. And additionally, not necessarily tailored for policy applications, but we provide a ton of additional analysis on, again, what are some of the trends and driving variables that we're seeing across projects of different characteristics, including we also have some renovation and reuse assessments and looking at different scopes and structural systems and life cycle stages, and really diving into, what is showing up as the biggest factors for high and low carbon projects. We just announced all this stuff yesterday. This is the first time I tried to put together a presentation, so it's a little sloppy, but we're going to be diving into all these resources in a lot more detail in multiple future webinars. So please stay tuned. Please check them out. Please share widely and let myself or any of the authors of this work know if you have questions or things you'd like to chat about in the future. We're really excited for this to be out and hope to support everybody in using it. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Brad. And then we've got Michelle, and Michelle Lambert from the CLF is going to be talking about some kind of amazing new case studies that we've just published also within the last brief period of time.
Yes, thanks. Hi, everybody. This April is a busy and very exciting month for CLF. So yesterday, all those resources that Brad just shared came out, and 2 weeks ago, we produced our Embodied Carbon Reductions Built Project Case Study Collection. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So just very briefly, wanted to touch on what this is, what's in it, and hopefully encourage you to download it and dive into these projects. So we published 13 project case studies, and you can see on the map on the right, the red dots are where all of the project case studies are located in this first volume. And the yellow are all of our CLF regional hubs that we have. And so there was definitely a strong correlation between where our regional hubs are, where those really strong communities are, and where we received a lot of case study submissions from. So also you can see just from those images on the left that we were able to publish a really wide range of project types, project sizes, as I mentioned, locations. And so it's a really interesting broad range of projects in this collection. And this is a key that you'll find that sort of identifies what all the different case studies include and what they address. So on the left, you might be not able to read it, but I just kind of wanted to give you a sense of what we were identifying these case studies as. On the left, the projects fell into either whole building LCA projects that looked at cradle to grave, did a whole building LCA cradle to grave with either Tally, OneClick, or Athena as the whole building LCA tool, and that covered at a minimum structure and enclosure. Other projects that did not necessarily do a whole building LCA, but may have targeted a specific material, such as low carbon concrete or steel, were able to submit an analysis using material quantities and EPDs, or possibly using the EC3 tool, and focused in on a specific material. There were many fewer of those projects that we received than the whole building LCA projects. And then the third category was projects that are in the category of things that are sort of in the next phase of inclusion in whole building LCA. So projects that tried to tackle interiors, embodied carbon reductions, or MEP systems, or landscape. We allowed into this third category where we are a little bit more flexible on the LCA requirements. And then on the right, you can see a whole range of embodied carbon reduction strategies that these projects addressed, from low carbon concrete, mass timber, material efficiency in structural design, sometimes in interior design, bio-based materials, adaptive reuse, a whole bunch of different strategies. And most, if not all, of the case studies actually addressed more than one strategy. So they weren't just specifically just mass timber projects. They also were looking at structural efficiency and maybe other bio-based materials, things like that. I did just want to quickly point out how fantastic I think the introduction section is. I don't know that we all always read very carefully the introduction sections, but there's a lot of really interesting insights into some of the more complicated aspects of doing LCA, a section on what the different tools, some of the similarities and differences between the tools, and then, short sort of descriptions on how we addressed biogenic carbon calculation and reporting, building reuse modeling, and some other topics there. So when you download the PDF, you'll see all 13 case studies together, and each one is somewhere between 3 and 5 pages. And we tried to really, make them concise, but also pack a lot of really interesting information into those, couple of pages. And also tried to make them sort of consistent across all of the different case studies. So you'll see the same in the center image there. You'll see the same table that describes what different LCA stages were included in the case studies, what the scope was, when the LCA was completed during design or construction or post-construction. And then on the right, you'll see tables that report are what the benchmark or the baseline was that either the team modeled or whether they were using a benchmark number that was published in a policy, what their proposed design embodied carbon intensity was, and then what the estimated savings was in a percentage. And then we created some graphs where you can see those numbers, percentages, reductions. And then in below the line, you can see the biogenic carbon storage, which, in some of them is much greater for the bio-based materials projects. So although the case studies are not comparable against each other because of all of the differences I mentioned in the way that the LCAs were done, you can start to get a sense of how CLF recommends that you assess and report your project LCAs. So that's it. That is the link to the download, which I'll also put in the chat, and hope you get a chance to read it. Thanks.
I can get Siemens plugged into Hoyt too. And
Andrew's on mute if he's talking.
Andrew, you're on mute.
Aha. I just want to remind everybody that we've got a 90-minute meeting. We're trying to pack in a whole lot in 90 minutes. So please keep your remarks pointed and disciplined, and we'll be able to fit everybody in. Next person on the agenda, Colleen Loader from the Canada Green Building Council. Go ahead, Colleen.
Great. Well, I don't have slides, so hopefully I'll be faster. I'll put some links in the chat. They'll make it a bit easier too. So in Canada, a lot of you knew we had a summit last June, to try to bring together and create a national strategy for embodied carbon for Canada. It looked at gaps, barriers, and solutions. We finally, earlier this year, got out the report on that. Sorry it took so long. And so I put the first link is a link to that report, which sort of sums up what's happening in the state of Canada. We are now this June planning a second summit where we're going to take the solutions, the top sort of 7 issues we have identified, and try to figure out work plans to solve those. And we have reached out to some of you, so we're hoping to get Megan from CLF to join us, and maybe Lindsay or Wes from USGBC to join us, and reach out to a couple more people to help make sure that we stay in alignment with what's happening in the US too, so Canada doesn't deviate too much. So that was the first thing I wanted to mention. You'll hear more about it and hopefully get some more results out after this June's event. In case you didn't hear about, you probably all saw on LinkedIn, we also produced, well, not we, the whole, our National Research Council produced a National Whole Building LCA Practitioner Guide. And this built on the work that was done in 2023 from City of Vancouver for Practical Guide. And I just want to make sure that everybody sees that link, because it is a good practical guide to sort of setting defaults and setting baselines. And we're really trying to get everybody in Canada to use this guide to keep us in alignment, because that was one of the issues identified at the summit, was about misalignment across the country for how we look at a whole building LCA. With this, a lot of you I know have been paying attention to work in City of Vancouver, but City of Vancouver just released yesterday, they're going to a new addendum to that to the national guide, because they're stepping away from their own guideline that they had created in 2023. So look at the City of Vancouver site. They've updated some of their material there. And I know some of you were expecting that their reductions are going to go in place in January this year, but they've delayed that slightly. You can see the updates on their website. I won't give any more about that now. And also, in case you folks didn't hear, on the southern side of the border, Clean Energy Canada released a report that looked at swapping out materials for lower embodied carbon, if that would actually have a higher cost premium. And they found it was cost neutral or very negligible costs, as well as design changes, and if that would impact the cost. And that report just came out last week. So anyway, just some 4 headlights for Canada. Any questions, let me know in the chat and I'll answer them there. And Andrew, you're still on mute. You're still on mute, Andrew.
Well, I'm trying to be a good person and keep myself on mute and be rigorous about discipline and so on, but I think I'm hitting myself in my own head or something. There's some kind of metaphor that I'm missing here. So The next person on our agenda that I see on the screen here is Cecilia Wendigo from the Center for Science and Technology Innovations in right in the middle of Africa. So please go right ahead, Cecilia, and welcome.
Hi, everyone. We're working towards closer on the biochar as our harmonized net zero material because we're ultimately trying to get ahead of the carbon dioxide removal, not just emissions reduction. And so we're looking at, and we have an agrarian economy, so we're looking at that. It would work in water purification. It would work in construction materials and um, also soil amendment. So it's like a farm to building concept. Um, we've made progress in starting to analyze some of the local samples of biochar and also figure out what type of manual labor. First time ever, I'm trying to compare human energy joules to machine joules, but we're trying to see in terms of micro crushing, which ends up being cost effective. And then the chemical characterization to get all the PHAs and the toxic chemicals out of that or screen for them and the heavy metals. The biggest challenge is the pyrolysis machines, just like LCAs. They come in very different shapes and sizes, and very few accept multiple feedstocks. So we've narrowed down to a company actually in Vancouver and a company in India, and we'll hope to update on that later. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Cecilia. And next on our agenda, I've got Pamela Conrad from the Climate Positive Design Initiative, and you're going to tell us all about infrastructure features, new features for Pathfinder.
I am. Thanks, Andrew. All right. So I'm a landscape architect and founder of Climate Positive Design, and we focus on the exterior built natural environment, and that is all the spaces beyond buildings. We're supported by and aligned with all the leading organizations and are especially grateful to MK Foundation for support on this recent update. So we run the Climate Positive Design Challenge, which sets emissions reductions and sequestration increase targets, as well as how many years your project would ideally offset itself. And you can meet the goals of the challenge by using the free web-based app called the Pathfinder that we've developed. And I'll show you how to use that here. First, I want to let you know that we've added in infrastructure project types in addition to site projects. So you'll add that in when you start a project. So to get started, you can go to climatepositivedesign.com and you'll go to the education tab and use Pathfinder to get started. Once you're in there, you can see you can create a new project or add an existing one. You add detail and you'll see that we've added over 300 new materials for infrastructure and sites. And so once you find your materials for your project, you select them. That pops up over on the right side where you can add related elements. And all you have to do is give that element an area and depth. And what you'll see is the red number here will give you embodied carbon emissions for that specific material. The second tab is plants. So you can add in any of the plants that you're including or restoring. That once you select those, you give it a quantity for your trees, for example, and that tells you how much they'll sequester over 60-year lifespan. So that does align with the ECHO group. Also operations. So we measure the operational carbon emissions for things like maintenance equipment or water use. And then you'll see on the last tab is we've also added in biodiversity, water, cooling, and equity. So by adding in your existing site conditions, you can start to see how well you are meeting to meet that 30 by 30 or 30% preservation goals by 2030, as well as the 10% net biodiversity gain. They give you guidance on ecosystems that you might want to connect to restore and improve biodiversity in your region. We also track water use on projects. You can see based on what you've entered how well you're meeting a 30% water reduction target, as well as cooling for the United States. If you're in a severe heat zone, you can see how much you're potentially cooling your site by buildings or shade, and that adds up here and tallies that for you. Lastly, we're also helping to understand if we're working with overserved or underserved or overburdened communities and increase engagement of public and awareness and are encouraging people to do that here. You can download a scorecard which shows you your emissions reductions and increase in sequestration, and there's a detailed page on page 2. You can download that and put it into your reports. And at any point in time, you can edit this. You can also track a baseline so you can see how you're comparing that to your improved design. So that's the app. We have a new methodology report, user guide, and a link to EC3 available, as well as we're linking to carbon conscience. There's a bunch of resources, including a toolkit and the palette that you can utilize as well. We have over 13,000 projects logged from around the world, and we have over 1,000 official projects logged that have a net positive impact of 2.6 million metric tons drawdown by 2040. So we, as I mentioned, aligned with ECHO Project. We use this to advocate at the international level from the last couple of conferences, aligning civil engineering and landscape architecture. We're working directly with the UN, produced this report this past year and led a workshop at the COP, working with LEED and sites credits, and other codes and standards for cities, as well as RFP requirements. So we do have a couple upcoming webinars we can learn more. So please join us, and thank you. Reach out with any questions.
Pamela, that was astounding. You covered an enormous amount of material in a very, very brief time in a very organized and disciplined way. So you're amazing.
Thank you. Thanks.
Next person oh, by the way, I just want to thank everybody who's been putting links to resources, download to downloads, to publications, conference announcements, and so on. Put them all in the chat window, and they'll be part of the record for this meeting. And the next person I've got on the list is Chris Nelson, a brand new organization and brand new participant for the Roundtable. Chris is representing the European Federation of Foundation Contractors and the Deep Foundations Institute. Chris, where are you calling from?
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, can hear you and see your slides.
Thank you so much. I'm calling in from Washington, D.C., actually Ellicott City, Maryland. I'm on a job site here, but my office for my company, Delve Underground, is in Washington, D.C. So here on behalf of the Deep Foundations Institute and the European Federation of Foundation Contractors to talk about our carbon calculator, what it is, where you can find it, and some new developments that we're really excited to announce that are very new as of this week. So I'll dive right in. I have, I think, just 3 short slides. So this carbon calculator is an Excel-based tool to estimate carbon emissions on geotechnical construction projects. It's pretty specific to our field, but really we encourage it to be used by anybody who's involved in the building industry and infrastructure to be able to identify these more niche techniques. We look at all the product stage, life cycle stages, A1 through A3, A4, and A5. And we have a range of different geotechnical construction techniques that are considered in our existing database. Where can you find it? It's really easy to remember, geotechnicalcarboncalculator.com. That'll actually redirect you to EFFC's website, where you can download the free Excel-based tool and the user guide, and also find links to a lot of great references and past webinars and trainings that we've done. And the big new announcement is that the Carbon Calculator Task Group, which has been a joint task group doing this work for the last 2 years, is ready to announce that we were officially going to be updating this tool to be a web-based application, really following the footsteps of some other great folks, in particular Pamela on Pathfinder and some other tools as well. So we're just kicking this process off now, and thinking about second quarter of this year, we'll really start the project. And we hope to have a working tool for public release in Q3 next year. So stay tuned for more to come on that. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Chris. And now I've got Josh Clement from the Global Energy Monitor, another new organization to the Roundtable. I don't see Caitlin Swalek in the room, but if you are here, Caitlin, please join Josh in this presentation.
Thanks, Andrew. Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Clement. I am the project manager for the Global Cement and Concrete tool within the Heavy Industry program at Global Energy Monitor. Global Energy Monitor is a nonprofit research organization focused on open and transparent data. We provide free open source databases that anyone can download from our website, and have a number of different trackers that support different aspects of the clean energy movement, including monitoring fossil fuels, clean energy development, ownership and financial backing, and high energy industries. Today, I'll be focusing specifically on the heavy industry program, but on the right of the screen here, you can see some, but not all of our projects that we currently have on our website. So the heavy industry program currently is made up of 3 different trackers. The global iron and steel tracker is our longest standing and most developed. It covers about 90% of the global iron and steel capacity across the world. The global cement and concrete tracker, which I manage, is planned to be released in July 2025 of this year, and will cover about 90% of the global cement and concrete capacity. And then our global iron ore mines tracker tracks mine level data and some of the supply chain information to support the global iron and steel tracker. This is our team. Astrid and I are the project managers for iron and steel and cement, respectively. Caitlin and Louisa handle some of the program level management, and then the rest of the folks make up our wonderful research team. For the global iron and steel tracker, being the longest standing tracker, it covers the most amount of data, both asset level and unit level information on location, operation status, ownership, capacity, and then that unit level data for the specific manufacturing units. For the cement and concrete tracker, we also cover similar location, ownership, and capacity, as well as some of that plant-specific information and green cement technology that's implemented at the plant level. And then the iron ore mine tracker as well tracks some of that ownership and location data, and then again, some of that supply chain information to help support the data within the global iron and steel tracker. Each of our trackers, well, most of our trackers, I should say, consist of 3 distinct parts. The first being the database, which again can be downloaded for free from our website and includes linked sources to all of the metadata for everything reported across the tracker for all of our trackers. We also have website material, which includes an interactive map, and that provides a visual representation of plant type and plant size, as well as wiki pages for most, if not all, of the individual assets included within each of the databases. And that provides asset-specific information, including like backgrounds and various other interesting facts. And again, all of this is hosted on our website. Additionally, on the website, you can find interactive dashboards, which gives you statistics and like visual breakdowns of a lot of the information for each of the countries included within each of the trackers. And then we also have summary tables, which can be downloaded from our website, and it includes pre-made information on a variety of different trends at differing levels of granularity, such as country level, regional level, and so forth. That is all I have. Here's some of our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me or Caitlin or Astrid with any information, any questions.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks much, Josh, and put some of the those central key links in the chat window also, if you don't mind. Next person that I'll be calling on, Tracy Nguyen from RMI is going to have to leave considerably earlier than the end of the meeting, so I'm going to call on you next. Tracy, please go right ahead.
Thank you, Andrew. I was just keeping track of time and I already had all my links prepared. So I'll go through quick. Hi, everyone. Lots of new reports and publications from RMI since I've been missing the past couple meetings on parental leave. But the most recent one was a Building with Biomass report called A New American Harvest. It's a really exciting piece that we were happy to finally get out there. We modeled a ton of residential homes across the US and looked at biomass feedstocks that could be made into building materials to estimate on a very high level how much carbon could be stored if people built with more carbon storing materials across the US. So we also looked at the amount of jobs that could be created with that and how much materials could be, or feedstocks could be used in buildings and stored rather than incinerated and wasted. So it's a really exciting piece. I hope you guys get a chance to read it. Of course, I'll share the link in the chat. With the ResNet standard 1550 for embodied carbon assessments for homes, that's in a really good state right now. The first draft was published in November and comments closed January this year. We're about 2/3 of the way processing the public comments, and we plan to have a second draft available in this summer. Our Home Builders Can initiative is going strong. We've got a second round of case studies published Again, a initiative to a network to help builders across North America measure and reduce the embodied carbon. What we're hoping to do this year is to lead a national embodied carbon benchmarking study for residential homes specifically. And we're seeking fundraising for that. So if anyone has any ideas or advice, we are open to that. We published 2 reports with our participation with the Colorado Mass Timber Coalition. One called Fighting Fire with Low Carbon Buildings, and giving an overview of how using wildfire thinning and can provide benefits to local communities and also have positive impacts for the climate, and also another report looking specifically at a product market fit in Colorado, looking at manufacturing capacity and mass timber products and seeing how they align in order to support with making the most use of wildfire forest treatment. And also, we've got a lot of different policy initiatives, but the most exciting one is working on embodied carbon emission pathways to 2050, but specifically for US building targets, and then creating policy scenarios to be able to reach those targets that could help regulators and local governments understand that information. So a draft report we're expecting in June, so stay tuned for that. We've hosted a ton of DOT workshops over the past past years and have 3 new publications. I'll post them in the chat as well. A lot of them are centered on concrete and helping state DOTs understand those specifications, understand what the priority is to focus on, and also having a more in-depth roadmap for advanced market commitments for the concrete industry. And last but not least, that's featured here, we're also wanted to share some of the work that we're doing in India, which is currently focused on India's residential sector. We are currently working on a policy toolkit for the cities in India, specifically on embodied carbon, and also just kicked off a benchmarking for affordable housing in India. So that's really exciting stuff, but there's a lot of work to do there. So up next, we wanted to look closer at the LCA and EPD infrastructure in India, and also looking at embodied carbon commitment initiatives to activate the market demand for EPDs. And this is a slide of links. It's pretty boring, but I'll post that in the chat so everyone has access to them. Thank you, Andrew. Back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tracy. And our next person that I'm going to call on a little bit out of order is Lindsay Watkins from the USGBC, also because she'll have to leave a little bit early as well.
Good morning, everyone. I don't have slides, but Lindsay Watkins, Senior Associate Decarbonization at U.S. Green Building Council, covering for Wes today. As you all probably know, we have LEED version 5 rolling out very, very soon. And so that is probably the most exciting update I have to offer you all. Hope to connect very soon on that. But just to highlight a couple of the high notes and embodied carbon wins, we have the assess and quantify prereq. So we will be requiring embodied carbon assessment for all LEED projects. And then additionally, the reduced embodied carbon credit. We have some really exciting strategy within that for embodied carbon reductions, and have been working with ECHO to align and harmonize across the board, as well as with the common materials framework in our building product selection and procurement credit. So we hope to connect with you all on new LEED version 5 very soon. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Lindsay. And next on our agenda is Lindsay Baker from Living Future. Please go right ahead, Lindsay.
Hi, thanks everybody. Lindsay Baker, I'm the CEO of Living Future. It's good to see you all. I also don't have slides. I guess I'm going to mention 2 things. First is that our zero carbon program pilot is starting over the summer. A lot of you have helped with that. Thank you. And so this is a revision of our existing zero carbon program, but it is going into pilot. And thanks to CLF for coming out with all of those new resources right as we go into pilot. I think that will be helpful. The main thing I want to share with everyone, I'm going to not talk about what our Declare program is, but if you know about it, then this will make sense to you. So we announced yesterday, but we'll be talking more about it at Living Future in 2 weeks, that we are going to go ahead with our plan to build out the 3 label system for product labeling, building on our existing Declare program, and despite the lack of EPA grant to get that done that we had expected and been planning on. So we need help from the community to get that done, and we'll be talking more about specifically what we need and specifically where we're headed with the product labeling program at the conference. So hopefully we'll see some or many of you there. I guess I can put in a link to that because I don't have a link to say this is what we're doing. We're gonna talk about it in 2 weeks at the conference. But if you can join us, please do. That'll specifically get talked about in detail at the Regenerative Materials Now Summit, the pre-conference summit. That's where we'll get into some of the detail with the manufacturers in the Declare program and everybody else who works on that, the Tiger team, and as well as Mindful Materials. So also, if you're going to the Mindful Materials event, I think maybe this group, this has a lot of product level folks in it that I'm seeing. So if you're involved in Mindful Materials, we're doing all of that work in collaboration with them, and you should be able to hear it through their channels as well. So yeah, basically it's a new product label coming soon, and it is built on the collective work that this group has been doing on benchmarking and baselining and figuring out how we're going to get all this out to market. So that's it for me.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Lindsay. That was great. And quite a teaser for the conference. So the next person I'm going to call on, another old friend, Don Davies. Don, I know I have asked you here this morning partly to talk about the lower carbon task force and the new set of case studies and the guide for lower carbon concrete. But I also wonder, would you mind also saying a bit about what's happening with building transparency? Don is the brand new executive director of Building Transparency, which publishes the EC3 tool and a number of other significant and valuable tools. So Don, take it away. Uh-oh, did Don just...
I don't see him here.
I'm not seeing him either. Well, hopefully he'll come back. And while he's out there wandering around, Kim Shin from the MEP 2040 initiative. Please take it away, Kim.
Hi, I'm Kim Shin, and glad to be here this morning. Just wanted to let you all know that MEP 2040 on Earth Day yesterday published its beginner's guide to MEP embodied carbon. It's a how-to guide to put together basically all the modules of the life cycle of a building, including all the A's, all the B's, all the C's, and just a little teaser on D. And it includes a complete case study of a whole building life cycle carbon of a lab building at the University of Illinois, Champaign. Thank you, Scott Farbman. Thank you, LMN Architects. Thank you, the University of Illinois. That's really illuminating how important MEP is in the carbon picture. We are seeing that at least for some buildings, MEP constitutes about 25% of total upfront carbon and 3/4 of carbon over a building's lifetime. So I've posted stuff in the chat, and please join us at our next forum on May the 1st. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Kim. And I'm also a member of the steering committee of MEP 2040, and I want to tell you, in the last 24 hours, I've been getting a notification every time somebody downloaded that MEP embodied carbon kit and guide. And there are now over 180 people in just under 24 hours who have downloaded the kit. It's kind of an amazing thing. It's a wonderful work. It's, by the way, it's being co-published. It was co-developed and co-published by the Carbon Leadership Forum and MEP 2040. And I highly recommend that extraordinary document. Let's see, I'm still not seeing Don. So I'm going to go right on to, I've got Marianne Jang from the Office of General Services from New York State, another first-time attendee, I think, at our roundtable. So please take it away, Marianne.
Hi, Andrew. Actually, I have been on this call before, so not my first time, but nice to see everyone. I don't have any updates. I can talk very briefly about what we're working on, but I will leave it very brief in that case. Just to say that we at New York State obviously have our embodied carbon guidance and our Buy Clean Concrete guidelines, which I'm sure many of you are aware of, and those are available on our website, and I can put the link in the chat. We are also working on whole project LCA guidance for buildings and infrastructure, together with ARAP and the NCLF, and the development of that has been challenging, and so yeah, we've drawn on on a lot of the work that many of you on this call have already done. We hope to release that sometime next year, but I'll keep you posted on that. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Marianne. And then I've got Zach Sempe from the Semke. Sorry, I'm mispronouncing. I'm just butchering your name.
No, the P is called a parasitic consonant, and it also glommed onto the word pumpkin. So it's very common for people to say Semke. Great to be here, Andrew. Thanks everyone. So I'm Zach Semke, Director of Passive House Accelerator and host of the Reimagine Buildings Collective, and I want to do three things. One is to introduce what Passive House Accelerator is. Two is to mention our big online conference coming on June 12th. And three is to mention our new online community, the Reimagine Buildings Collective. So first, the Passive House Accelerator. You may have heard about the Passive House certifying bodies, FIAS in Chicago and Passive House Institute in Germany. And we are independent from both, although we collaborate with each often. The Passive House Accelerator is a community of Passive House and zero carbon building practitioners. And we take a holistic view of zero carbon building. So we see it as energy efficiency plus low embodied carbon materials, plus electrifying everything, plus getting that electricity from clean energy and putting those together. So embodied carbon is central to the conversations we're having about building decarbonization. We have weekly Zooms about Passive House practice and projects called Passive House Accelerator Live. We have a Passive House podcast. We just featured Andrew in a recent episode that was a recap piece about the NESI conference in Boston. We have 2 YouTube channels. We write an original article every week that dives into projects or practice. We have a Passive House Accelerator magazine, and we also do special online conferences. So that gets me to number 2, which is our global online conference, Reimagine Buildings 2025, Past, Present, Future. This is on June 12th, and it'll be divided into 3 4-hour chunks. One, past, so exploring transformative projects that are revitalizing and repurposing our existing building stock. Present, which is to celebrate groundbreaking designs that are pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the built environment. And future, which dives into next-gen materials, cutting-edge technologies, and the future of resilient climate-positive buildings. So we hope you'll join us on June 12th. And finally, our new online community, Reimagine Buildings Collective. This is our membership community where we bring together building professionals ready to tackle climate change, to share knowledge, level up our skills, and build powerful relationships so that we can create the healthiest, most sustainable buildings, deliver them cost effectively, and thrive in the process. And we have a bunch of amazing and a growing roster of experts and residents, including folks like Nikita Reed, Chris Magwood, Jacob Recusen, Bev Craig. Jacob recently completed a Managing Embodied Carbon course on the collective, and we have more Embodied Carbon coursework planned. So I invite you to check out the Reimagine Buildings Collective at reimaginebuildings.com. And I think that's it. Hopefully that was under 3 minutes. Thanks.
That was definitely under 3 minutes. That was
It was a lot. Sorry.
another highly structured and very disciplined presentation, Zach. So, and by the way, when are you going to come and go for a walk around Green Lake with me again? That was
Let's do it again. How about later this afternoon?
a year ago.
It's an amazing day. Yeah.
So, so I still don't see Don Davies on the screen there, but I want to I put a link in the chat window to the resource that Don and his team produced and published just a couple of weeks ago, lowercarbonconcrete.org, with a link to all of those. I think it's 6 different case studies on lower carbon concrete, as well as a lower carbon concrete guide. And one of the case studies that Don built, specifically built, and then and which Don has been gracious enough to invite the Seattle-based staff people from the Carbon Leadership Forum to share with him. It's called Atlantic Crossing, and you'll see that that case study in the set of them there. And then finally, there are a number of people who signed up to do presentations, and I'm not seeing them on the screen, but maybe I'm just not looking closely enough, or the little black boxes are too tiny for my aging eyes. So I'm just going to list a set of people that I see on my list for potentially speaking. And if you're one of them, please speak up and I'll turn over the mic to you. Irene Domingue from Bologna Europa, Mark Brandt from the Zero Net Carbon Collaboration, Jean Lotus from the Natural Building Alliance.
I'm here.
Sorry, who is that? Oh,
Jean Lotus, Natural Building Alliance.
I'm so sorry, I overlooked you, and I'm going to make you a co-host now, and you can share your screen if you'd like.
Great. So yeah, real quick, we're the Natural Building Alliance. We started in 2000 as the Colorado Straw Bale Association, turned into the Natural Building Alliance in 2019. And right now we are an example of a group that is trying to build from the ground up with how do we scale natural building materials, bio-based, carbon sequestering locally, sourced. So just had a quick overview of natural building, minimally processed, non-toxic, return to the earth without harm and locally obtained. Here's some examples. And then I'm going to talk about wall systems and some work that's been done to get these wall systems into the U.S. International Residential Codes. The reason we want to do this is, first of all, to cut red tape for people that are trying to build with natural building materials, but also to basically give a roadmap for folks who want to manufacture using straw panels, hempcrete, et cetera, et cetera. So
could I just interrupt to pause for a second? You might want to make the slide go over the entire screen, so we'll
I'm afraid to do that. I'm going to try it. All right, continue to share. Did it work?
That worked great.
Okay, excellent. So just wanted to talk about 2024 was a big year in the International Residential Code because 5 or 6 natural building materials were incorporated into the IRC. So we have a code cycle every 3 to 5 years. And of course, there's also the International Building Code, which is for the larger buildings. But this is International Residential Code for smaller houses and small multi-unit buildings. So I'm just going to go through. Straw bale construction actually got in 2014, but it was updated. Light straw clay appendix, what is it? Yeah, BI. That was in the new appendix or in the new code. Cob, monolithic adobe. My favorite, hempcrete, appendix BL. And tiny houses were appendix BB were adopted for the first time. Oh, I guess tiny houses were not adopted. They're since 2018. And then this update for crushed stone footings allows you with houses to basically use this for foundations instead of Portland cement. And the thing is that you folks probably know this, but every code has to be adopted by different jurisdictions. New Mexico and Colorado do not have, are among 8 states that don't have a state building code. They have to be adopted in every single county. That's hard work. New Mexico has adopted a lot of Adobe related codes, so that's helpful. This is the big news here. Hempcrete was adopted by the city of Austin, Texas, which is a real trendsetter. This happened earlier in the month. And in 2024, these are some of the new items that were adopted in the IRC. And there's also, as well as the code, there's the commentary, which is often, very helpful for folks using the code. And also, adopting these codes actually helps, it protects consumers, obviously, because if you're working under a code, then you can expect that your provider is going to be doing the work correctly. A couple of books, natural building books that are coming out with the IRC appendices included. Here, of course, are the Sustainable Building Essentials from New Society Publishing. And then lastly, we're having our conference September 18th through 20th in Bozeman. We are really making this a very open conference, and we actually have a hostel. Often Bozeman is very expensive to come to, so we have a youth hostel there that we rented the whole thing, and you can basically stay there for $40 a night in the bunk beds. But we will find that this is we're really trying to make this open to folks to move forward with natural building and to bridge the gap with natural building materials to be used not just in small residential projects, but in larger projects. So thank you so much. And that's it for me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jean. And I'll just list a few others who signed up to speak, but I don't see them. If you're on this list, let me know real quick, and we'll move ahead with you. We've got Dean Frank from the Center for Excellence for Carbon Neutral Concrete, Ariel Brenner from NBI, Sylvie Binder from New York City Mayor's Office, Genevieve Graham from SE 2050.
That's me.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, Andrew. How are you?
Saw your name, but somehow I didn't connect that name.
I should have put SE 2050 at the end there.
Fantastic. Please.
I don't have slides either, but I'm pleased to be here talking about SE 2050 with all these knowledge creators, industry movers. It's really a great group. Just asked to report out on the committee, on the program. Happy to do it with CLF because we incubated with you guys and born out of Architecture 2030, so lots of history there. But we're doing really great work. We just had our collection period with our private firm committers. So we have now over 150 firms committed to the program. And if you're not familiar with the program, it is a program for structural engineers, by structural engineers, volunteering on this committee under SEI. And really the goal of the committee is to empower practitioners to lower the embodied carbon of their designs and to give them frameworks and resources to get to net zero building structures. And we have a great group of people committed to this, reading all the resources you guys are creating and trying to assimilate it into digestible forms. And so I encourage, everyone to go to the SE 2050 website. We have a great resources with many links. One of our cornerstone projects is our database. So part of the commitment and being an active signatory firm is to submit embodied carbon data each year. We have over 1,000 projects submitted. We are in the process of adopting a new database that's going to include quantities. So we're really excited for the future of what this database is going to look like and the insights we can gain from it. But even from the previous 1,000+ projects, we've been able to gain some interesting insights, aligning a lot with what my preliminary looks at the CLF studies have shown. So excited for that. And then another aspect I would encourage people to look at on the program is the embodied carbon action plans of the firms. So one thing that I think is really special about SE 2050 is this is getting that private industry buy-in to reducing embodied carbon. And one of the ways we do this is by having each firm write an embodied carbon action plan. These are publicly accessible documents. It really gives insights into how these firms are thinking of embodied carbon and reducing their footprint and working towards net zero. And so I was asked to say what's next. So what's next is growing the program. We see growth as both quality and quantity. We'd love more firms to be signed up. We want to maintain that quality engagement from the firms that are signed up. We want to grow our database and to get more insights and align those insights with similar organizations. And we want to make sure that we're encouraging the practitioner to feel like they have power at the table to make a difference in their projects. So any questions, please reach out to myself or contact@se2050.org.
All right, thanks a lot, Genevieve, and thanks for your patience with me. And I just want to note also that SE 2050 has been part of the NGO Government Roundtable for several years now. And you all have, within the last short period of time, gone through a wonderful and very healthy leadership transition. And so the folks who had driven SE 2050 or helped to really ensure its kind of getting out of the gate really fast and really well years ago have now passed the baton. And Genevieve, you're one of the amazing human beings who picked up that baton and are carrying it forward.
Yeah, you might have expected to see Frances Yang, but you have me now. But she's still very involved.
I know, and Mike as well. I saw Mike.
And Mike as well. Yeah.
Mike in Boston a few weeks ago at the Northeast Sustainable Energy Association. He was one of our panel members for the on embodied carbon and on collective impact.
Yeah, have no fear. I talk with him multiple times a month on SE 2050. Very involved still.
All right, so a couple more names I'll just mention in case you're here and are hiding from me anyway. Natalie Georgiev for Richard Graves from the University of Minnesota, and Kita Gungotra from WRI, and Stephanie Dallo from Zero Emissions Innovation Center in British Columbia. So the last person that I'll call on, then perhaps the last presentation, will be Scott Farbman from Energy Solutions. Please go right ahead, Scott.
Yeah, hey all. Not so much a presentation, but an announcement that popped in my head after the presentation from the Natural Building Alliance, speaking on some changes to the ICC codes. Let's see, I believe it's next Tuesday, on the IECC Residential Modeling and Whole Building Metrics subgroup, there are 3 proposals for the 2027 IECC development being heard that will reference or include content on embodied carbon. So if you are a user of the IECC codes or want to help get embodied carbon recognized into the IECC code, showing up to that meeting, which you can do publicly, and voicing your opinion on it being included could help push these things through from a code perspective. So there's three proposals. The first is mostly a wedge in the form of a definition being added for CO2e. The second is setting a embodied carbon requirement through the modeling pathway. So if you're doing energy performance modeling, there may be an embodied carbon number your home would have to hit. And this is residential, so single family homes, townhomes, and low rise. And then the third is a fully new appendix, which could be adopted by municipalities that would set thresholds and requirements for embodied carbon items. And the work is done by Stephen Winters Associates, who we, I think, all know and adore. And I think some of the numbers and the targets within these proposals were done in coordination with RMI and Chris Magwood. So they're all three really great proposals. Public support is really helpful in these meetings. Sometimes these meetings can lean a certain way, not the way we as advocates like. So again, super helpful to show up and voice your support, and I can share a link to the meeting in the chat. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Scott. Thank you for stepping in at the end there. And I just had a final question. Jean, could you tell us, is the Natural Building Alliance, is that a rebranding or renaming of COSBA?
No, that would be the California Straw Bale Association. We were the Colorado Straw Bale Association, but we've sort of taken on the Rocky Mountain region. And we then expanded to include Adobe and Adobe Cob, Light Straw Clay, all the things.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad that you're there and you're doing that amazing work. And so we've come to the end of our meeting. As a matter of fact, this is we've all been very disciplined and excellent about our use of time, and so we can let you go a little bit early. And just as we're ending the meeting here in Seattle, the sunshine just arrived right this minute. And so now I'm going to go out into the sunshine and walk around the lake to celebrate the end of the meeting and the beginning of the next quarter. I'll be sending out a link to the notes from this meeting and the video recording, as well as an invitation to the very next meeting 3 months out. So thanks a lot, and have everybody have a great day today. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.